Living in Sunnyside Estates wasn't exactly my dream come true, but it checked the boxes that mattered. The neighborhood was quiet, the commute to work was short, and the nearby walking trails were perfect for Maverick, my golden retriever and loyal service dog. After serving overseas, I came back with scars that weren't visible to most people. Maverick helps me manage my PTSD, grounding me when panic creeps in, and reminding me I'm not alone. He's well-trained, calm, and professional, always wearing his service vest when we're outside. Over the years, I've learned the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, inside out. It's something you memorize when your independence depends on a service animal. But I never thought I'd need to quote federal law to the president of my own neighborhood association. The first time I met Karen Whitfield, she approached me with the air of someone who believed she ran the world, or at least our small part of it. Clipboard in hand, lips pursed tight, and eyes sharp enough to cut glass. "I don't recall approving a dog in this community," she said, eyeing Maverick as though he were an intruder. I smiled politely. "He's not a pet, ma'am. Maverick's a service dog." "The ADA?" she interrupted with a huff. "People always find loopholes." And with that, she turned on her heel and walked away. That was my first red flag, and I ignored it. Within weeks, the warning signs turned into official notices. One said my grass was an inch too tall. Another claimed my mailbox wasn't the right shade of black. The third accused me of leaving my trash can visible for 45 minutes too long after collection day. Each letter was signed by Karen, her name looping dramatically across the page, ending in a smiley face that felt more like a threat. I fixed every minor issue without complaint. I wanted peace, not trouble. But deep down, I knew Karen wasn't done. At the next HOA meeting, she unveiled a new proposal, a rule requiring all animals, including service dogs, to be registered with the board and wear HOA-approved identification. I raised my hand. "That violates federal law," I said calmly. "The ADA specifically prohibits requiring special registration for service animals." Karen's jaw tightened. "Federal law doesn't override community standards," she snapped. The room went quiet. A few neighbors shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke. When the meeting ended, Karen brushed past me and whispered, her breath thick with coffee, "If you want to be difficult, I can be difficult too." I didn't realize how serious she was until the weekend. It was a quiet Saturday morning. I was reading the newspaper on my porch while Maverick rested by my feet. The air smelled like fresh-cut grass and calm. Then a shadow crossed my lawn. Karen. She was wearing her signature khaki shorts and a polo shirt. "Gripping a spray bottle like a weapon. Your dog is violating the new ordinance," she declared loudly, making sure the nearby neighbors could hear. "He doesn't have HOA identification." I looked up, keeping my tone even. "Karen, that rule hasn't even been approved yet. And again, federal law." She stepped closer. "I'm tired of you military types thinking you're above the rules," she spat. "If you won't comply, I'll handle it myself." Before I could react, she sprayed Maverick directly in the face. He yelped and stumbled backward, pawing at his eyes. My chest tightened with fury. Years of military discipline kept me from shouting. I stepped between them. "What's in that bottle?" "Just vinegar and water," she said with a smirk. "Maybe now he'll learn to respect authority." I took Maverick inside immediately, rinsing his eyes until I was sure he was okay. The vinegar stung, but thankfully there was no lasting damage. My hands were shaking as I called 911. 911, what's your emergency?" "This is a federal offense," I said, my voice low but steady. "Someone just assaulted my service dog." Within 20 minutes, 2 officers arrived. I showed them Maverick's certification and explained everything. One took my statement while the other crossed the street to talk to Karen. Through my window, I watched her gesturing wildly, her face twisted with indignation. The officer didn't look amused. When they returned, the lead officer said, "She admitted to spraying your dog. We've explained that interfering with a service animal is a federal crime under the ADA, and it also counts as animal cruelty under state law. She's under arrest. Would you like to press charges?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. Karen's screams echoed down the street as the officers led her away in handcuffs. "You'll regret this. I'll have you evicted." But the neighbors who had once avoided eye contact were now watching from their driveways, and for the first time, some looked relieved. "She's finally gone too far," someone whispered. Over the next few days, neighbors began stopping by. One woman said softly, "We should have spoken up sooner. She's been bullying everyone." Maverick, ever the professional, had already moved on. Calm, alert, always by my side. Karen's case moved faster than I expected. The evidence was overwhelming. She'd confessed, there were witnesses, and the police report was airtight. When she appeared in court, she looked different. Expensive clothes, carefully styled hair, and a lawyer who kept glancing nervously at the judge. But no amount of polish could disguise the truth. The judge's tone was sharp. "Community rules never override federal law," he said, "especially when it comes to disability accommodations." Karen's lawyer tried to argue for leniency, but the judge wasn't moved. She was sentenced to 30 days in county jail, a $5,000 fine, 200 hours of community service at an animal shelter, and mandatory disability awareness classes. When the sentence was read, Karen's face shifted from disbelief to anger. And finally, something like understanding. "But I was just enforcing the rules," she protested weakly. The judge leaned forward. "The most important rule, Ms. Whitfield, is to respect the law of the land and the people it protects." As she was led away, our eyes met for a brief moment. Gone was the arrogance, the smug certainty that she could control everyone. What remained was the hollow look of someone who had finally hit a wall she couldn't push through. A week later, the HOA called an emergency meeting. I went unsure what to expect. To my surprise, the room was packed. The vice president stood and announced a vote of no confidence in Karen's leadership. The result was unanimous. She was removed from the board that very night. When the meeting ended, I looked down at Maverick sitting beside me, his golden coat catching the light. He tilted his head, sensing my calm. I reached down and scratched behind his ears. "Good boy," I whispered. He leaned against my leg, a silent reminder that sometimes strength doesn't roar. It stands quietly, steady and loyal, beside you through every storm.